All right, let's talk about something I think we've all been guilty of at some point, the temptation to just wing it. This whole idea is inspired by a really insightful poem by Denis Martindale that just perfectly captures the dangers of the do-it-yourself approach, especially when you're trying to save a buck but don't really know what you're doing.
Come on, you've been there, right? You see a leaky faucet or a flickering light, and that little voice in your head goes, "How hard can that be?" You're hoping to save a little cash, but before you know it, that simple fix has spiraled into a much bigger, way more expensive problem. And yeah, that's exactly the mess we're unpacking today.
So let's be clear. What are we talking about when we say winging it? Well, it's pretty simple. It's diving into a task completely unprepared. You don't have the right tools, you don't have the necessary parts, and you definitely don't have the training. You're basically running on pure hope and maybe a prayer. And as we're about to see, that is a very risky strategy.
Okay, so that leads us right into our first big idea here, the DIY dilemma. It's that classic internal battle, isn't it? That tension between wanting to be smart with your money and staring down the very real risk of making things a whole lot worse.
And you can really see that conflict play out right here. On one side, you've got the hope, which is so tempting. You're thinking, I'm going to save money, this will be a quick fix, and wow, I'll feel so proud of myself. But then, reality hits. And reality often looks a lot like having no clue what you're doing, using the wrong equipment, and ending up with way more financial stress than when you started.
So where does it all go wrong? How does a simple project turn into a total catastrophe? Well, let's get into it. We're going to break down the anatomy of a failure and look at the common missteps that lead to disaster.
You know, the first major error, and the poem points this out perfectly, is just not listening. It's this idea that we know best, even when there's a ton of information sitting right there in front of us.
Yeah, the failure usually starts way before you even pick up a screwdriver. It's ignoring the user guide, it's brushing off advice from people who've actually done this before, or, and this is a big one these days, not even bothering with a quick online search. All the information is right there, but it's like we just choose to ignore it.
The next pitfall is a super practical one. See, it's not just about what's in your head, it's about what's in your hands. Using the wrong equipment or trying to force a solution is just a guaranteed recipe for disaster.
Look, at the end of the day, success isn't just about willpower. You absolutely need the right tools for the job. Making these flimsy, bodged repairs because you think you know better than the experts, that's where things really start to fall apart.
But this kind of begs the question, right? Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we take these risks in the first place? Let's dig into the psychology of it all. Let's explore the winging it mindset.
The poem offers a huge insight here. A lot of the time, the root cause isn't just ignorance, it's pride. It's that little voice in our head that insists, I can figure this out on my own, I don't need help. Admitting we need a hand can feel like failure, so we'd rather risk actual failure just to avoid it.
So pride is one driver, but the other, of course, is money. This line gets right to the heart of the whole dilemma. We just really don't want to spend the cash. But this reluctance to pay a professional means the underlying problem just lingers, and usually it gets worse.
And check this out. This is the financial trap, laid out plain and simple. Your initial DIY attempt seems like the cheapest option. Hiring a professional from the start costs a bit more, but the most expensive outcome by far, having to hire a professional to fix what you broke. The attempt to save money can ironically end up costing you the most.
Okay, so if winging it is the path to failure, what's the alternative? The good news is the poem actually gives us some really clear advice on a path to success. The very first step is just a change in mindset. It's about accepting reality. The poem urges us to wise up and face the problem head-on, because ignoring it or trying to half-fix it won't make it go away.
And the practical advice can be broken down into a simple process. First, just acknowledge the problem. Then, do what you are avoiding, call a specialist. And hey, you can still be a smart consumer by checking prices, and crucially, you can make sure the job is done right with the proper parts.
And the poem's final warning really lays the stakes bare. This isn't just about some minor inconvenience. Cutting corners can lead to catastrophic failure. It really boils down to this. A small investment now prevents a total wreck later.
And you know, this is about so much more than just home repairs. This lesson is universal. Think about that steep learning curve when you face new software, or a challenging project at work, or any task where you just feel out of your depth. It's the exact same pattern. We try to wing it to avoid that initial uncomfortable effort, not realizing it's the only path to real competence.
So we'll leave you with this question to chew on. Beyond a leaky pipe or a broken shelf, where else in your life, your career, your finances, your personal growth, are you just winging it instead of seeking out the right tools and the right expertise? It's a powerful thing to ask yourself. Thanks for tuning in.